Efia, what's going on?
Everything. What's going on with you?
We're here to pod. It's all about podcasting and around these parts. How's your day doing today?
Yeah, you know what? It's been a really great day. So I'm currently in Scotland visiting my sister, and this is actually the first time that I see my sister in 3 years due to, the ongoing world situation. So this is the longest that we've been apart in our entire lives. So it's great catching up, and then she's getting married next week. So yeah, it's all exciting times around here.
Well, that's a big congratulations to you. You guys can make that connection. I hope the wedding is goes off with a bang. You know what I mean? You eat some good food. You get your dancing shoes on and all that great stuff. And make the best of it. You know what I mean? 'Cause I think that's what it all comes down to. That's what life is, making the best of life. You know?
Oh, for sure. It's a 3 day extravaganza, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fun to be had.
3 days. It sounds like we're creating the life. You know what I mean? So that's my
Yeah.
question to you. How do we create true change in our life from your point of view?
From my point of view, creating true change, where a lot of people may go wrong with this is just thinking about an intention of, okay, well, I want to have this, or I'm not happy with this, and then they will begin trying to change their life from the point of that intention, which is great. And I think it's a really great jumping off point to begin to bring clarity to areas where you're maybe not happy or you see potential for growth. But I think throughout the process of change, what is the most important thing and is going to keep you grounded throughout this entire process is not just trying to change that external situation, but doing things that are going to bring you in deeper alignment with yourself. So I always say to my clients that it's not just about what you want to have. Of course, that's important, but it's about who you want to be, and if the way that you're showing up in your life, in your world right now, feels true to the person that you are. And if it doesn't, then that's where we want to look at making those changes.
I love that you say that. You know what I mean? Because change is always a thing. And prior to this podcast, the audience, your audience, my audience, and things like that is actually, I've been going through a big change the last 5 to 7, going on almost 8 weeks. You know what I mean? And I alluded to it a little bit and stuff like that. So I got a talking piece coming about what does that change look like, and how I feel like we tend to get into this pitfall where we don't have enough hours in the day. You know how many times people say, "Oh, I don't got enough hours in the day. I need more hours in the day." But it's how you're maximizing your time to create those opportunities for you to go forward, not backwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, time is very precious, and bringing that intentionality to how you're using it and also to how you're managing it and managing your own energy within those boundaries as well.
Speak about energy. What does energy mean for you?
I think this is a huge concept to sum up into a few words, but I think energy is about presence. It's in, it's always created, never dies. It's in us, it's in nature, it's in everything. And so to me, I'm someone who is very empathetic. I feel things a lot. I like to express things a lot. So for me, energy is about that sense of connection, not just with your outer world, but also with your inner world. And I'm at a point now where I can very acutely feel, like, energetically, if something is off with me, if something is off within one of my relationships. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships, talking about platonic relationships as well, or even in your environment. And I think being able to be in tune with that energy is something that is one of the most powerful tools we have the ability to access. It's completely free, and it's something that there is never a point where you've arrived and you're like, that's it, I'm completely 100% in tune, I don't need to do anything else. It's a practice that I know I myself, I am working on doing things to align my energy every single day.
So that's what we got to do. Protect our energy also too, because this is a podcaster, a content creator, person of influence. People of influence hold a lot of personal responsibility. You know what I mean? Because we're so easily accessible. People can sound clip us, people can repost us. Some people may agree to disagree with our talking points, and it happens. You know what I mean? And I think that with us, with that personal responsibility, we have to always know that there's always going to be something. We got to give and take. It's the yin to the yang. You know what I mean? Family will resonate with us. Friends will resonate with us. Networking people will resonate with us. But I think the biggest thing is the people that don't resonate with us. You know what I mean? They don't resonate with our message because maybe they have their own limitations that they have to deal with and things like that. How would you speak to the audience about navigating that and being in our space of content creation and being coaches, life coaches, people of influence and things like that?
I think we're never going to be in a situation where anyone 100% agrees with us. And I think even in some of my closest relationships that I appreciate that my friends don't always agree with me and that hold differing opinions. And I used to not really be able to take that on board, whereas now I welcome the discussion, and also I'm open to having, number one, having a different point of view, but number two, knowing that I can have my truth, someone else can have their truth, and that doesn't necessarily make either of us wrong or means that we're not going to get along, but those two independent things can exist at the same time. And so coming to this online space, whether it's through podcasting, social media, content sharing, of course, that's going to be amplified times 1,000, times 1,000,000, where there's going to be even more of those people. And the people in your life are more likely not to have a malicious intent. Maybe online there is a malicious intent. Maybe things get miscommunicated because, of course, it's the internet. And to begin with, it can feel, getting those comments, it can be challenging to hear. But I think the more time you spend in this space, you know that everyone is kind of going through their own things. Everyone has their own viewpoints. And it's not about trying to make other people see what I see or trying to force my beliefs on someone else. I often get asked, like, oh, what would you say to someone who's skeptical of manifestation? Like, how would you convince them to believe or tell them that it's true? I'm like, well, I wouldn't. Like, I don't really have a need to convince someone that's skeptical because they have their own view of the world and I have my own view of the world. And if they don't want to believe in it, that doesn't affect my life. It doesn't affect my life. So rather than trying to make other people see our point of view, all we can do is be sovereign in our own truth. And as long as you're sovereign in your own truth, it doesn't matter whether people agree with you or not, or whether people see things the same way that you see things, because you're staying true to you. And that is the biggest blessing.
I got the soundboard here. I didn't even hit the sound because you just took it. I love it. You know what I mean? This is, again, I always say it. The audience listens to me all the time saying the element of this podcasting and just how you can create so much rich conversation with people in the world. You know what I mean? Communication is the instrument. It's the deliberation for us to get to where it is that we need to get to. So I go into this laws of attraction. Right? I think that's a big thing because the laws of attraction, you are who you want to attract. For podcasting, you get guests, you get talking points, you get different people reaching out. Yourself, humble, appreciative that we're doing this. We share this space, a safe space. Laws of attraction. Speak on that to the audience.
The law of attraction is a way that many people are first introduced to manifestation. I know that was certainly the case for me, and perhaps through things like The Secret, either the book or the documentary. And when I first watched that documentary, when I first read that book, it felt like a door had been opened in my mind. But it also wasn't like a door that had never been opened before. It was like a remembrance of something. And it's very exciting, but I feel like a downfall of the law of attraction is that if you are only focusing on the law of attraction, in some ways it can be limiting because yes, it's important to think about the things you want to attract into your life and to have positive thoughts, but we also have to be cognizant of living in a real life situation where there are going to be times where you're going to feel challenged or you're going to have difficult or heavy emotions. And a problem that I see that can arise, and in fact, just recently I had a client and we had just begun working together, and she's like, Efia, she was kind of afraid to say this to me, but she's like, I'm really pissed at the universe right now. I'm struggling. I feel like I've been trying to manifest all these things. It's not working. It feels like things are really hard for me right now. And she'd been really fearful to say that out loud because, oh, well, law of attraction, I shouldn't be speaking on things that I don't want to bring into my existence. But actually holding on to that frustration, that anger, that confusion was what was causing things to fester. So about 2 months after we had this conversation, I was like, you know what, it's okay to have these feelings and to express those emotions. And what if you could just give space for these things to exist? And a couple of months after we had that conversation, she messaged me. She's like, 90% of my intentions have manifested. I feel like I have more clarity, more purpose. And it's not that I have, I don't have difficult emotions anymore. I do still have those difficult emotions and challenges, but the way that I face them is different. And that is what I want for people. It's not that, yes, your life is going to change the more that you incorporate manifestation principles and even universal laws into your life. But also, it's not like you're not going to have challenges or difficult situations arise, but the way that you approach these things is going to be different. And that is what is completely life-changing, that in itself. And so yes, the law of attraction is something I'm super passionate about, but we also have to explore other universal laws as well, like the law of action, right? We can't just like wish for something to appear. We actually have to take that conscious action, or the law of rhythm about feminine and masculine energy pools. So there's so many different areas that we can go into within universal laws beyond the law of attraction. But yes, it's a great introduction.
Man, oh man, oh man. Let's go. Waking it up on the podcast, there's I sit in a room right now and it's like the air temperature has changed because it's all the things that you've said that I believe in. And one of the things I like to tell folks is that when it comes down to the laws of attraction, you have to train yourself of what you want to let in. It kind of goes into people say is, oh, well, why do you block certain things? Oh, I block certain things because I don't want the energy to come in. Because if you allow that energy to keep seeping through, could be somebody being negative with your time, things like that, whatever reasons, you have to sometimes block that to train the universe. This is what you're going to welcome in. You know what I mean? Every night I go to bed, I pray, right? And I always say is remove all stumbling blocks away from me. Efia, believe it or not, when you keep telling yourself that and you tell the universe, if you believe in the universe, you believe in God, the right things come your way. You know what I mean? And that's some of the things I have to try to tell people is that, listen, you are your own conductor, right? You conduct whatever happens. If you want negative vibes to come into your way, well, that's on you. And not for me, I can't do that. I don't got time for that. You know what I mean? Because I got to keep a soul safe space, everything that it is I do. You know what I mean? When you sit here, you're in front of 2 screens, you got to work, you got to be self-aware of everything that's going on. If I take a call with a guest or a customer and things like that, I got to be in my right mindset. I can't be bogged down by other things. And some people are going to say, well, you're living your life in a padded room. No, not living in a padded room is what I want to have, because I have to deal with maybe somebody that gives me a call and they're upset about something that they have or something that they have to do or something they want to return. I got to talk them off that ledge. So if I'm not in my right mind and I don't have anybody talking me off my ledge, I'm going to be able to talk that person off their ledge. You know what I mean? It's like basically mixing oil with water. The oil is just going to sit at the top. You know what I mean? It's best to have water with water, because as if it's cold water, hot water, or whatever, we good. Water's water. It just changes the temperature. Back to you, Efia.
Yeah, I definitely agree that as a, not necessarily just as a coach, but also as a content creator, like managing that energy and getting yourself into a headspace before you show up on those platforms, especially when we spend so much of our lives online, it can detach you a little bit from the real world or even from your own intuition, which is why you have to consciously make an effort to reconnect with that and to stay grounded in that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, action versus belief. Speak to the audience about that. You know what I mean? Deals with manifestation. I hear it a lot. I hear manifestation. People are like, manifest this, manifest that. But speak. Action versus belief.
So belief is an important part of manifestation, but personally, I believe that you don't actually need to believe in your manifestation 100% for it to happen. I think, in fact, it was Barack Obama said, he was like, yeah, I didn't 100% believe that I was going to be president. It happened anyway, which I'm grateful for. But no, I wasn't like 1,000% this is going to happen. And it just goes to show that you can manifest incredible things in your life without being 100% there yet. So a stumbling block that people can often face is, I want to manifest this into my life after having done like kind of belief work and being work and embodiment work. And we're like, yes, these are intentions I want to set. And then jumping straight to like, but I don't believe I can have it, so I can't have it. We have to see belief rather than as a binary, as a spectrum. So going from 0 to 100 for most people is a significant jump. So rather than going from 0 to 100, can you go to, okay, I can see it's been possible for other people. Okay, I can see it's been possible for other people maybe in a similar situation to me. Okay, I've seen a similar situation in the past where maybe I was able to manifest X, and this is what's going to lend itself to this. I always say with people when they come to affirmations, and then it's just throwing an affirmation out there like, oh, I am a millionaire. I am so rich. I am so abundant. And if you don't like fully connect with it, something you can do is go to previous memories. So for example, if I'm saying I'm so rich and I'm feeling like broke as fuck at that moment in time. Oh, I don't know if I can swear. Sorry.
Everybody talks about they can't swear on the podcast. Listen.
You can edit it out.
It's all good.
So if you're feeling broke AF at that moment in time and you're saying I'm rich and you can't connect with it, okay, what's a memory that you can think back to in the past where you did feel abundant, where you did feel rich, and you can tap into that energy, sink yourself down into that feeling, and then begin speaking on those affirmations. So you're coming at it from a different place, and so that it feels more real to you. And there are just simple techniques and practices that we can do like that, that not only bring that certainty to our affirmations, but to everything we do when manifesting our desires. And from that place, the actions that you take are completely different.
So true. When you found yourself, what was that one thing you did that you can speak to the audience about? Finding yourself and really understanding who Efia really is. And I want you to speak more to the female fan base, because I think that, like, something I'm doing lately is really highlighting more female voices, because there needs to see more of that happening in a more conscious space. And you know, like, you can talk to dudes all day, every day, but when you talk to the female fan base and what you guys do and things like that, you guys have a different perspective. So how did you find yourself, and what's one actionable tip the ladies can take with them today?
I'm not sure that I would refer to my journey as finding myself, but I'll definitely say that there have been points in my self-development, personal development, manifestation journey where I have felt more connected to myself. And I think that comes down to actually beginning to trust yourself and trust the ideas that you have, and not just trusting the ideas that you have and saying like, okay, yeah, this is something that could be something that I want to explore, but trusting yourself enough to actually follow through on the things that you're going to do to get you there, even if it's terrifying or it doesn't really seem to make sense to other people or even fully sense to yourself yet. And trusting that the things that are coming to you, that the visions you're having have been chosen, have been created for you for a reason. So learning to trust my own voice has been one of the greatest gifts I've ever given myself. And I'm at a point in my life where I would say that I am extremely self-confident and self-assured in who I am as a person. But I don't think that I've found myself, because this journey is ever evolving and I'm constantly learning new things about myself, unlearning things about myself, you know, old patterns, beliefs, behaviors that I no longer want to carry with me. And so if you're listening to this now, I just want you to recognize that you are already such a powerful human being, such a powerful manifestor already. And if you could just tap into that belief, tap into that faith, and just turn it up a little bit more each day, and believe that too, then you're going to notice things begin to happen much quicker, because you're getting into that momentum.
Again, well said. And I feel like traveling for you puts a big key into this too, right? Because you hear a lot of people saying that, like, at a young age or they get a little bit older in life, they do a lot more traveling, right? You get to see different parts of the world. You get to experience different areas and people, things. For you, how much is traveling really incorporated in that for you?
Traveling is definitely a huge part of it. And when I was 21, and I'm 28 now for context, I left Scotland for Australia, and this was a trip that my friend and I had been planning for the better part of a year. And then 3 weeks before we were due to go, my friend told me that she was no longer going to be able to come and that I should go alone. And at that point, solo travel was it was not even on my radar. I was still struggling quite heavily with anxiety and panic attacks, and I didn't know if this was something that I would actually be able to do on my own. I didn't even want to do it on my own to begin with, but I'm like, am I physically going to be able to do this on my own? And I decided ultimately to do it by myself for a number of reasons, including that I'd already given up my flat, I'd quit my job. I'm like, I'm said I'm going to do these things, so I need to kind of go through with what I've said. And it was one of the most terrifying yet exhilarating things I've ever done. And taking that first solo trip, which turned into moving to Australia for 6 years and counting, and all the subsequent solo trips that followed every year after, has taught me so much about the world, about myself, about how small we are, about how much impact we can make, about everything. And I do recommend it to everyone, especially traveling alone, even if it's, you know, it doesn't have to be for 6 years like myself, but even it just like a week or a weekend away where you go yourself, even solo dates, which is something I do every Sunday. I'll take myself out if I'm at home, which I'm not at the moment, but if I'm at home, I'll take myself out to my favorite restaurant or go to the cinema and just spend time in my own company. And the more that you can get comfortable in your own company, I think it also means that the people that you attract into your life, you have a certain standard for the people that you will allow into your life, that you are comfortable having in that environment when you have created such a welcoming and homely environment within yourself.
Man, have been saying this, I used to look down at doing things by yourself, going to the movies by yourself. It's weird. And I'll be honest, sometimes you don't want to bank on people. There's that movie that comes out, could be a horror movie. I like horror movies, right? So that's what I do. Why am I going to call up people or go talk to the group chat about the movie that I'm going to go see? I'm going to go by myself, get my own drink, get my own popcorn, get my own candy, and sit there and watch the movie. Now, you got other people in the movie theater probably looking at you like, who's this guy? Who's this guy 6'4" in the movie theater by himself? Well, that's me, because I love me. I don't have to wait on other people. And I used to look down at that. Now I understand what it means. And you're right. It does bring the right people, because it's crazy, because I've had conversations where people say, hey, listen, I go travel here by myself and I'm there for like 4 or 5 months. I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm like, I gotta have to pick up those principles soon. You know what I mean? Once everything, clears up in the ways of life and all these different things that we're dealing with, So for me, I never want people to lose sight. You know what I mean? Go out there and try to do something just by yourself. Even go eat at a restaurant. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't have to be a fancy 5-star restaurant. Hey, listen, if you got the bank book to cover that, go by all means, go do that. You know what I mean? But, go to your restaurant, sit at the bar side, grab a seat for yourself. People do that traveling for business all the time. You know what I mean? Different states, different cities, different countries. So I hold people accountable. Listen to this. Try doing it yourself, and let us know how it feels. What else can you add about your venture when you think about, now you're 28, right? What would you tell your younger self back in your younger years as the person that you've now shaped and become?
Oh, how young are we going?
Right, we can go as young. Hey, listen, this is a safe platform, right?
I think it depends. To be honest, at different stages in my life, at different ages in my life, there were different things happening. So the advice that I would give would definitely be different depending on what I was going through or what my aspirations were at that time of life. But I think, if I was looking back to my 18-year-old self, who was so heavily focused on grades and work and performance, I would just give myself that permission to play a little bit more, to enjoy a little bit more, to be free a little bit more. And in fact, even now, that's something that I'm continually reminding myself. And I do have a lot of fun in my life. But even if you notice, there are small ways that it can crop up in your life that are quite insidious. For example, taking a break, or, oh, do I really need to take this lunch break? I could just work through and continue doing stuff. Or especially if you have your own business or you're creating content, you're like, oh, I could just do this whenever, and it's encroaching into your free time that is actually supposed to be free time. You have to redefine what free time and fun actually is. And I'm someone who doesn't love expressions like love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life, because I think it's kind of glorifying capitalism to a point where you can't separate those lines between work and play. And I think they do need to be separate, because otherwise we risk running ourselves into burnout and then looking back 5 years down the line, because, by the way, burnout takes like 5 years to recover from, and you end up looking back on that time period and being like, why didn't I just take that 1 hour? And you never want to get yourself to that point where something so simple could have made so much difference. And so now I'm creating those intentional spaces within my day. I even have a reminder on my phone that goes off at 12 p.m. every day, and it's like, remember to breathe. And I stop whatever I'm doing at that point in the day, and I'm like, and just take a deep conscious breath, because every breath is a meditation as well. It doesn't necessarily need to be an hour-long saga, although sometimes that is juicy and delicious too.
I hear you. That word, work-life balance, you know what I mean? Speaking to the people in the corporate world. And I feel like they preach it, the work-life balance, but I've always said in myself is like, how much of work-life balance do we really have if we're working our 9 to 5, but then we're doing all this other stuff on the side? You know what I mean? Then we have to live for ourselves. And I think that's where you see a lot of people are constantly hamster wheeling. So I always say to people is that you got to sometimes work in between the times of work. You know what I mean? I know some of you are going to miss that. Like, what do you mean work in between the times of work? Depending on whatever it is you're doing, if you work from home or maybe you work in office, find those elements when you break to perfect and sharpen your tools, right? I think so many people want to do it after work or before work. Sometimes you can do it in between, right? You could be simply sitting there on your phone in the lunchroom eating your lunch, and maybe you're like planning out content ideas. Well, that's your safe space time. You know what I mean? Now, for me with podcasting, I can't just go record a podcast. But what I could do is I can reach out to that next guest. I can send out 3 pitches in the space of 15 minutes to potential people that I want to bring onto the show. That's maximizing your time. And I think so many people, and I get it from, you know, my history of working in the gym industry for about 7+ years. I would see that. I'd see why some people wouldn't come to the gym, because family life and work life and this life and that life. By the time it's like 8, 9 o'clock, they're just getting food in their belly. What I always say is you got to find some times in the productivity realm of what your schedule is looking like. Maybe that means going to the gym earlier. Maybe it means going to bed earlier. You know what I mean? And I think we're so superficial with our excuses because they're there. You know, we can always reach into the bucket. Yeah, it's excuses. I got to create that excuse. I'll figure it out later. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely hear you in that.
Mm-hmm. What else can you add before we get out of here? I like to do things different on this podcast as far as 1% better. What can you speak to the male audience, the female audience? It's about becoming 1% better.
I love, books like the Compound Effect and The Slight Edge for the impact that they say of those small daily actions that can contribute to the life that you have. And I think for me that those 1% actions that I encourage my clients to make are 1% actions that are going to set you up for the day. So maybe that is having a 5-minute meditation. Maybe that is mirror work. Maybe that's self-massage. That's doing something to get in touch with yourself, to get in touch with your feminine, masculine energy. And by the way, this is regardless of what gender you are, whether you're male, female, non-binary. We all have masculine and feminine energy within us. Doing things to get you in touch with your energy, doing things that make you feel alive. And I feel that the way that you do what you do, when you give yourself that time to tap into yourself, not just like taking action for the sake of action, or taking action because I need to be better, or taking action because I need to take things off my to-do list, but taking action that comes from a really conscious place, and you're doing that because you feel called to do that. You're taking action that feels really intuitive, and you're acting in a way that is in alignment with your values, because that is the most important thing. And something, again, that can be missed out from people's manifestation process is the embodiment of what you want to create into your life. It has to start from the embodiment of what you want to create, from being the person you want to be, and everything else flows from there.
Well said. Such a beautiful, intelligent, universal episode of the Mitchell Report Unleashed podcast. Where can everybody check you out? Get in contact with you, see your journey. I glimpsed a little bit of your journey. I see you always traveling. You got all the traveling pictures and things like that. But where can people get in contact with you and reach out to you if they want that coaching?
So you can reach out to me on Instagram. It's just my first name and my last name with an underscore. So Efia__. You can check out my podcast, the Manifest Edit podcast. And then if you enjoyed the conversations that we were having here today, I also have a free masterclass on the power of subconscious manifestation and what it actually looks like from a neurological perspective, making some of those shifts that we've spoken about today. And you can grab that by heading to efiasalter.com/freebie.
Bam. Efia, I'm going to tell you this right now. I don't say this to a lot of guests. You're a real one. And you got a home. You got a home here whenever. Just let me know. Let me know in the back channel whenever you want to cover anything. Because in the next few months, things are going to look a little different here on the side. And I'm going to try to put more people in this condensed space that we're here. So some more powerful conversations is just not going to be between me and Efia, but you might see about 3-4 people, maybe 5, maybe 6. We'll see. Play it, you know what I mean? But I appreciate you, and you keep doing what it is you're doing.
Thank you, and you too.